Alastair Finch moves through the emergency department not as a doctor, but as a king surveying his domain. The kingdom is a cacophony of beeping machines, hushed sobs, and the sharp, sterile scent of antiseptic fighting a losing battle against the metallic tang of blood and fear. To him, this is not chaos. It is order, his order, imposed by the sheer force of his presence. His white coat is not cotton, it is armor, pristine and uncreased, a symbol of a status he feels was bestowed upon him by divine right rather than earned through tedious years of study. His stethoscope, draped around his neck like a medallion, is his scepter. He is a man carved from granite and prejudice, his face a mask of bored superiority. The patients are not people. They are a tide of inconveniences, a collection of biological puzzles that occasionally amuse him but mostly just annoy him. They are the unwashed masses, bringing their mundane tragedies and overblown dramas into his sanctum, expecting miracles he has no interest in performing. He dispenses judgment far more often than he dispenses medicine. His eyes, the color of a winter sky, sweep across the waiting room, cataloging and dismissing. A man clutching his chest. Probably indigestion from a cheap lunch. A woman with a bleeding hand wrapped in a dirty towel. Clumsy. And then his gaze lands on her. A black woman. She sits hunched on the edge of a hard plastic chair, her body a taut line of anxiety. She wears gray sweatpants and a faded university hoodie, clothes that scream insignificance to his finely tuned senses. In her arms, she cradles a small boy, a child whose labored breaths are audible even from across the room. Alastair feels a familiar wave of irritation. Another one. Using his ER as a free clinic for a common cold. Wasting his valuable time. The woman's name is Maya Washington. Right now, she is not a doctor. She is not a surgeon. She is not the architect of medical miracles, a woman whose hands can rewrite destinies inside a human chest. She is just a mother. A mother watching her son struggle for every single breath. Leo is 6. His skin is hot to the touch, a dry, radiating heat that terrifies her more than any visible wound ever could. His small chest rises and falls with a rattling, desperate rhythm, a sound like dry leaves skittering across pavement. He is trying to tell her he is okay, but the words dissolve into a harsh, barking cough that racks his tiny frame. Maya holds him tighter, her own heart pounding in a frantic, useless rhythm against his back. She has been in this waiting room for 3 hours and 47 minutes. She knows the exact time because she has watched every single second tick by on the large, impersonal clock on the wall, each tick a hammer blow against her composure. The air is thick with the anonymous suffering of strangers. It is a place where time warps, stretching into an agonizing eternity of waiting. Finally, a nurse calls a name that sounds vaguely like theirs. Maya lurches to her feet, pulling Leo's limp body with her. They are led not to a room, but to a bay, a small space separated from the next by a thin, beige curtain that offers the illusion of privacy but not the reality of it. The nurse, a young woman with kind, tired eyes and a name tag that reads Evans, takes Leo's temperature. Her brow furrows. 103.6, she murmurs, her voice laced with concern. His breathing is very shallow. Maya nods, her throat too tight to speak. She knows. She knows better than anyone. The doctor will be right in, Nurse Evans says, offering a small, sympathetic smile before disappearing behind the curtain. The doctor is not right in. Another 20 minutes crawl by. Leo's breathing grows more ragged. Maya can hear the wheezing now, a high-pitched whistle with every exhale. She is on the verge of screaming when the curtain is swept aside with an aggressive flourish. Dr. Alastair Finch fills the space, his presence sucking the very air from the small bay. He does not make eye contact with Maya. He glances at the tablet in his hand, his lip curling in a faint sneer. Leo Washington, he announces, as if reading an indictment. He then looks, not at the child, but at Maya. His gaze is an appraisal, a swift and brutal calculation of her worth. He sees the simple clothes, the exhaustion etched on her face, the color of her skin. He has his diagnosis before he even touches his patient. What seems to be the problem, he asks, his tone suggesting he doubts there is one. He can't breathe, Maya says, her voice a raw whisper. She can feel the shift in the air, the moment her fear begins to burn away, leaving something else in its place. Something cold and sharp. Rage. She gently lays Leo down on the gurney, whispering assurances she doesn't feel. She pushes through the curtain and strides into the hallway. She sees Finch standing at the nurse's station, laughing with another doctor. The sound is obscene. "Dr. Finch," she calls out, her voice stronger now, harder. He turns, his amusement fading into annoyance. "I'm busy," he snaps. "My son needs medical attention," Maya states, planting her feet. "He is in respiratory distress, and you are dismissing him." Alastair's face darkens. He despises being challenged, especially in public, especially by someone he has already categorized as insignificant. "I have made my diagnosis," he says, his voice low and menacing. "Are you a doctor?" "No." "Then I suggest you take my advice and go home." Nurse Evans appears at Maya's side, her face pale. "Doctor, perhaps we could just check his oxygen saturation levels," she suggests timidly. "It would only take a second." Alastair turns the full force of his venom on the young nurse. "Are you the doctor, Nurse Evans?" he sneers, his voice dripping with contempt. "Did you suddenly get your medical degree between bedpan changes? Or shall I fetch you a white coat so you can play pretend?" The nurse shrinks back, her face flushing with humiliation. She mutters an apology and scurries away, leaving Maya completely isolated. The system has closed ranks around its own. Alastair turns back to Maya, a cruel triumph gleaming in his eyes. He has reasserted his dominance. He picks up the chart, making a show of looking at it. "Patient information. Maya Washington," he reads aloud, his tone mocking. "No insurance listed. Figures." The comment hangs in the air, thick and poisonous. It is a judgment not on her finances, but on her character, her worthiness. "People seem to think this is a free-for-all," he continues, his voice rising, playing to the audience of nurses and orderlies who are now watching, silent and wide-eyed. They use the emergency room as their primary care physician, wasting precious resources on sniffles and scrapes because they can't be bothered to manage their own lives. He takes a step closer to Maya, invading her personal space, using his height and his title as weapons. "You are wasting my time. You are wasting this hospital's resources. And you are disturbing my other patients. Now, take your son and go home, or I will have security escort you out of my emergency room." His smirk is back, wider and uglier than before. He believes he has won. He believes she is broken. He is wrong. From the bay behind them, a terrible sound erupts. A series of deep, racking coughs, so violent they sound like the child is tearing himself apart from the inside. It is a sound of pure, helpless struggle. Maya spins around, her heart seizing in her chest. She rushes back to Leo's side. His face is turning a dusky, terrifying shade of blue around his lips. His eyes are wide with panic. He is fighting for air, and he is losing. "Please," Maya gasps, turning back to Finch, all her anger dissolving into raw, primal fear. "Help him. Please, he can't breathe." Alastair Finch stands in the doorway of the bay, his arms crossed. He looks at the struggling child. He looks at the terrified mother. And a flicker of something cold and ugly passes over his face. Indifference. He sees not a dying child, but an inconvenience that refuses to be dismissed. He looks directly at Maya, his eyes devoid of any hint of compassion, any trace of the oath he once took. "People like you are always so dramatic," he says, his voice calm, conversational, which makes the words infinitely more cruel. "If you can't afford proper childcare, perhaps you shouldn't have had him in the first place." Silence. A profound, ringing silence descends upon the bay. The words land, each one a physical blow. They are not just an insult. They are an attack on her motherhood, on her love, on the very value of her son's life. It is the line. The moral event horizon. And in that moment, something inside Maya Washington breaks. Or perhaps, it reforms. The terror, the desperation, the pleading mother, it all vanishes. It is burned away by a sudden, glacial calm. A stillness so absolute it is more terrifying than any scream. She straightens up. Her spine becomes a rod of steel. She looks at Dr. Alastair Finch, and for the first time, he is the one who feels a prickle of unease. The woman looking at him now is not the one who was begging him for help a moment ago. Her eyes are different. They are the eyes of a predator that has just been foolishly prodded by its prey. Finch, satisfied that he has delivered the final, crushing blow, turns to walk away. "Don't you walk away from me, Dr. Finch." The voice is not loud. It is quiet, almost conversational. But it cuts through the noise of the ER like a scalpel. It carries an authority that is so profound, so innate, that it stops him dead in his tracks. He turns back slowly, a flicker of disbelief on his face. He is amused. "Or what?" he scoffs. "You'll file a complaint. Get in line." He expects tears. He expects shouting. He does not expect the small, simple phone that appears in her hand. It buzzes, not with a ringtone, but with a series of short, sharp, insistent pulses. A priority alert. Maya answers it, her eyes never leaving Finch's. The gaze is unnerving. It is analytical. It is the look of a superior assessing a subordinate's catastrophic error. "Yes, David," she says into the phone, her voice perfectly level. Finch's smirk begins to falter. The use of a first name, the casual tone, it doesn't fit the picture he has painted of her. "I'm in the ER," Maya continues. A beat of silence. "No, not as a patient. I'm observing a catastrophic failure in patient care and a level 1 violation of the hospital's code of conduct." Her words are precise. Clinical. Finch feels a cold dread begin to seep into his bones. "Yes," Maya says, her eyes narrowing slightly. "It's Dr. Alastair Finch." She says his name as if she is tagging a specimen for dissection. He can hear a muffled but furious voice on the other end of the line. "I understand," Maya says. "I'll handle the immediate situation. You handle the board. I want him suspended before he can alter a single record." She hangs up. The silence in the bay is now absolute. Finch is staring at her, his mind racing, trying to make sense of what just happened. Who is David? Who is she? Maya turns her attention away from him, a dismissal more profound than any insult. She looks at Nurse Evans, who has been hovering nearby, drawn by the shift in atmosphere. "Nurse," Maya says, and her voice is transformed. It is the voice of command. "Get me my son's chart. Now. And page Dr. Chen from Pediatrics to Bay 4 immediately. Tell him it is a code Omega." Nurse Evans blinks, confused. "A code Omega," she stammers. "Ma'am, I've never heard of that code." Finch sees his opening. A chance to regain control. "There's no such thing as a code Omega," he scoffs, his voice a little too loud, a little too shaky. "It's not a hospital protocol. Who the hell do you think you are, making up codes?" Maya turns her head slowly, fixing him with a look of pure, undiluted pity. The look one gives a bug just before crushing it. "You're right," she says, her voice dangerously soft. "It's not a standard protocol. It's my protocol." She takes a single, deliberate step towards him. "I'm the person who created that code 3 months ago. It's reserved for a single, specific event, when a member of this hospital's senior surgical staff or their immediate family is in critical danger due to gross medical negligence on these premises." The blood drains from Alastair Finch's face. His skin, normally ruddy with arrogance, turns the color of ash. He opens his mouth, but no sound comes out. Maya closes the remaining distance between them. She is no longer the tired, desperate mother in sweatpants. She is an avenging angel in a university hoodie. "My name," she says, each word a perfectly placed incision, "is Dr. Maya Washington." She pauses, letting the name settle in the suddenly frigid air. She sees the flicker of recognition in Nurse Evans's wide, terrified eyes. The nurse has seen the welcome memo, the picture on the hospital intranet. Finch is still struggling, his brain refusing to connect the dots. And as of 8 months ago, Maya finishes, delivering the killing blow, "I am this hospital's chief of surgery." The world tilts on its axis. The power dynamic in the emergency room does not shift. It shatters. It inverts with the force of a physical explosion, the shockwave rolling through the entire department. Nurses stop what they are doing. Doctors freeze mid-sentence. Everyone is staring. Alastair Finch's carefully constructed kingdom has just been conquered by a woman he dismissed as a peasant. "And you, Dr. Finch," she adds, her voice dropping to a whisper that is somehow louder than a scream, "have just made the biggest mistake of your career." And quite possibly, the last 1 inch. He stammers, his mind a maelstrom of denial and panic. Chief Washington. The new chief of surgery. But, you're. He can't say the word. He can't say black. He can't reconcile the image of power and authority in his mind with the woman standing before him. His prejudice has short-circuited his reality. Nurse Evans, however, recovers instantly. Realization dawns, followed by a wave of professional terror and a strange, exhilarating sense of justice. She snaps into motion. Right away, Dr. Washington, she says, her voice crisp and efficient. She practically runs to the nurse's station, grabbing the chart and paging Dr. Chen with a speed and urgency she didn't know she possessed. The system, which had protected Finch moments ago, is now turning on him with brutal efficiency. The first sign of the new regime. Within 90 seconds, a man with silver-streaked hair and a kind, intelligent face rushes into the bay. Dr. Chen, the head of pediatrics. He takes one look at Leo, his professional calm instantly kicking in. Then he sees Maya. Maya, he says, his voice filled with concern and deference. What happened? He doesn't question her presence. He doesn't question her authority. He knows exactly who she is. He needs oxygen, a full respiratory panel, and a stat nebulizer with albuterol and ipratropium, Maya says, her voice a rapid-fire sequence of commands. I suspect severe RSV, but we need to rule out bacterial pneumonia. On it, Chen says, already calling out orders to the nurses who have materialized at his side, eager to follow a competent leader. A team forms around Leo, a whirlwind of efficient, life-saving action. The very action Finch had denied him. Maya, her son now in the capable hands of her most trusted colleague, turns her full, undivided attention back to the man who is rapidly shrinking in his own white coat. She walks to a nearby computer terminal, her fingers flying across the keyboard with practiced ease. She pulls up the ER's digital patient log. You triaged my son as non-urgent, she begins, her voice the cold, detached monotone of a surgeon dictating operative notes. His oxygen saturation was never taken, a direct violation of pediatric triage protocol for any patient presenting with respiratory symptoms. Finch flinches as if struck. His respiratory rate was noted in the chart as slightly elevated, and then dismissed. She continues, not looking at him, her eyes fixed on the screen. You didn't listen to his lungs with your stethoscope on his skin. You didn't even bother to have him remove his hoodie. Negligence. She is not shouting. She is dissecting. She is laying his incompetence bare, layer by layer, for all to see. She turns her gaze from the screen to the charge nurse, a stern, older woman who had watched the initial confrontation with impassive eyes. Nurse Miller, Maya says, her voice sharp. You are the charge nurse on this shift. You witnessed Dr. Finch refuse to provide adequate care to a child in visible distress. Did you log an objection? Did you escalate the situation to the attending physician or hospital administration, as per protocol? The charge nurse pales. Her composure cracks. I trusted Dr. Finch's judgment, she stammers, avoiding Maya's gaze. You trusted his prejudice, Maya corrects her, her voice like ice. And your silence made you complicit. Note that for the record. She pulls out her phone again. She doesn't dial 911. She dials a 4-digit extension. Marcus, it's Dr. Washington, she says. I need you in the ER. Now. I need you to secure Dr. Alastair Finch's office, his locker, and his computer. I want a full digital and physical lockdown. Nothing goes in or out. And I want all of his patient records from the last 48 hours flagged for immediate peer review. Marcus is the head of hospital security. A man she hired herself 2 months ago, a former police detective with a reputation for unshakable integrity. Finch finally finds his voice. It is not the booming, confident voice of a king. It is the reedy, panicked squeal of a cornered rat. This is a misunderstanding. A complete overreaction, he cries, his hands held up in a pleading gesture. I was busy. The ER is swamped tonight. You can't just. I can, Maya interrupts, her voice flat and final. I can and I am. He tries a different tactic, his eyes darting around wildly, looking for an ally in a room now full of accusers. He tries to appeal to her, a desperate, pathetic attempt at finding common ground where none exists. Dr. Washington. Maya, please, he begs, stumbling over her name. I have a family. A mortgage. My whole career. Maya looks at him. Her face is a blank canvas, revealing nothing of the roiling fury beneath. So do I, she says softly. His name is Leo. He is 6 years old. He loves building spaceships out of cardboard boxes and believes his teddy bear can talk. Her voice trembles, just for a second, with the force of her suppressed emotion. And you left him to suffocate in a waiting room because you decided, in the space of 10 seconds, that you didn't like the color of his mother's skin. The accusation, spoken so plainly, so brutally, sucks the last of the air from Finch's lungs. He completely shatters. That's not true, he shrieks, his voice cracking, spittle flying from his lips. It's not. It had nothing to do with race. You're twisting this. You're trying to ruin me. His professional mask is not just gone, it has been vaporized. Underneath is a raw, ugly core of panic and bigotry, now exposed to the harsh, fluorescent lights of his own emergency room. He is incriminating himself with every hysterical denial. Just then, Marcus, the head of security, arrives. He is a large, imposing man whose calm demeanor only makes him more intimidating. He is holding an iPad. He walks past Finch as if he isn't there and hands the device to Maya. We pulled the footage from the hallway camera, Dr. Washington, he says, his voice a low rumble. The audio is crystal clear. Maya takes the iPad. On the screen, a video is already playing. It is the security camera's view of the hallway outside Bay 4. The scene they all just lived through plays out again, this time in grainy, impartial black and white. They hear Finch's dismissive tone. They hear his insults, his condescension. They hear him humiliate Nurse Evans. And then, the final, damning words echo from the tablet's small speakers, clear as a bell. People like you are always so dramatic. If you can't afford proper childcare, perhaps you shouldn't have had him in the first place. The recording is absolute. It is irrefutable. It is the nail, the hammer, and the coffin, all in one. Maya turns the screen so Finch can see it. She watches as his face collapses, as the last vestiges of his blustering denial crumble into dust. He sees his own smug, cruel face. He hears his own voice pronouncing his own sentence. At that exact moment, as if choreographed by the universe for maximum dramatic impact, the main automatic doors to the emergency department slide open with a pneumatic hiss. 3 figures stride in, moving with a purpose that parts the sea of ER chaos. David Sterling, the chief executive officer of the hospital, a man whose tailored suit costs more than Finch's car. He is flanked by the hospital's chief legal counsel and the chairman of the board of directors. The hospital's holy trinity. They do not look happy. David Sterling's eyes scan the room and lock onto Maya. He walks directly to her, ignoring Alastair Finch as if he were a piece of furniture. Maya, he says, his voice tight with a mixture of fury and apology. I am so sorry. I came as soon as I got your call. Is Leo stable? He will be, Maya replies, her voice steady. Dr. Chen is with him. He's in good hands. Only then, once he has been assured of the child's safety, does the CEO turn his attention to the disgraced doctor. He looks at Alastair Finch, and his expression is one of pure, unadulterated contempt. Dr. Finch, David Sterling says, his voice dangerously quiet but carrying the weight of absolute authority. Your clinical privileges are suspended, effective immediately. Your employment contract is terminated, for cause. Security will escort you from the premises. He pauses, letting the words sink in. Do not touch your locker. Do not access your computer. Do not speak to any member of my staff. A box with your personal belongings will be couriered to your home tomorrow. You are now trespassing on hospital property. Finch stands there, stunned into silence, his mouth agape. He is being unmade. His identity, his power, his entire world, dismantled in front of a live audience in under a minute. 2 of Marcus's uniformed security guards, who had been standing by discreetly, step forward. One of them, a stone-faced man with no pity in his eyes, holds out his hand. Your ID badge and pager, doctor. The doctor is pure, sardonic irony. Mechanically, Finch unclips the ID from the lapel of his white coat. The coat suddenly looks cheap, ill-fitting. A costume. He hands over the plastic card that was his key to this kingdom. He is being stripped of his regalia, publicly and methodically. As the guards begin to lead him away, a last, desperate spark of his old arrogance flares to life. He pulls away from them, his face a mess of tears and rage. "You can't do this," he bellows, his voice echoing through the silent, watching ER. "I am a respected physician. I have 20 years of experience. I will sue you. I will sue all of you." He is a king in exile, making empty threats from the deck of a sinking ship. Maya steps forward, placing herself directly in his path. The guards stop. Everyone stops. She looks him dead in the eye. Her rage is gone, replaced by a profound, weary sadness. "You're not a physician, Alistair," she says, her voice soft, yet it carries to every corner of the room. A physician honors the oath. They listen. They care. They see a human being, not a demographic. She gestures around the room, at the chaos, the fear, the hope. "You're just a man in a white coat who confuses his authority with his worth. A bully who preys on the vulnerable because it makes him feel powerful." She takes a deep breath, the final confession, the last piece of her strategy. "I could have pulled rank the moment I walked in here. I could have flashed my ID and had my son treated by the best team in the city within minutes. She lets that hang in the air. But I didn't. I let you refuse. I let you mock. I let you threaten to have me thrown out while my son was gasping for air." Her eyes bore into his, stripping him bare. "I needed to let you be you, Alistair. I needed the world, your nurses, your colleagues, the board of directors, to see you for exactly what you are when you think no one of power is watching." She steps aside. "Take him away." The guards retake his arms, and this time, he does not resist. His head is bowed. He is a broken man. As he is led toward the doors, a relic of a fallen empire, the only sound is the rhythmic, life-giving puff of the nebulizer mask on his son's face. The sound of a life he almost extinguished. The sound of his final, utter defeat. The fallout is not swift. It is a slow, methodical, and brutal demolition. Alistair Finch's ruin is total and absolute. The hospital board, led by a furiously repentant David Sterling and an implacable Maya Washington, does not just fire him. They launch a full, independent investigation into his entire tenure at the hospital. What they uncover is a horror show disguised as a medical career. They find a clear and undeniable pattern. Minority patients under Finch's care in the ER were statistically more likely to be misdiagnosed, undertreated, and discharged prematurely. Their mortality and complication rates were significantly higher than those of his white patients with identical presenting symptoms. He was not just a racist in his heart, he was a racist in his practice, and his prejudice had a body count. The findings are turned over to the state medical board. Finch's medical license is not just suspended, it is permanently revoked. He will never practice medicine again. The hospital publicly releases the findings of the investigation, a move pushed for by Maya. She refuses to let them bury the truth. The story becomes a national scandal. Dozens of former patients and their families come forward with stories of neglect and mistreatment at his hands. A class action lawsuit is filed, and the hospital, on Maya's insistence, does not fight it. They settle, paying out millions to the victims of his medical malpractice. Finch is left financially and professionally destitute. His reputation is so toxic that he cannot even find work as a medical consultant. He sells his large house. His wife leaves him. He becomes a ghost, a cautionary tale whispered in the halls of medical schools about the terminal disease of arrogance. The charge nurse, Nurse Miller, who stood by and did nothing, is also fired. Her complicity, Maya argues, was a poison that allowed Finch's infection to fester. The message is clear: silence in the face of injustice is participation. But destruction is only half the equation. From the ashes, Maya builds something new. Leo makes a full and complete recovery. He was diagnosed with a severe case of respiratory syncytial virus, RSV, complicated by an underlying, undiagnosed asthma. Without the timely intervention she forced, Dr. Chen confirms, he would have suffered respiratory failure within the hour. He would have died. That knowledge fuels Maya's crusade. She leverages her position and the board's guilt into enacting sweeping, systemic changes. She establishes a new protocol within the entire hospital network, a protocol she names Leo's Law. It mandates strict, non-discretionary diagnostic steps for any pediatric patient presenting with respiratory distress, regardless of their background or insurance status. It removes the individual physician's bias from the initial, critical stages of care. It saves lives. Nurse Evans, the young nurse who showed a flicker of courage, becomes Maya's first project. Maya promotes her to a newly created position, Senior Patient Advocate. Her job is to be a voice for the voiceless, to challenge the hierarchy on behalf of any patient who feels they are not being heard. The hospital also funds a full scholarship for her to attend an elite university and get her nurse practitioner degree. Maya sees in her the future of compassionate medicine. The hospital's reputation, initially battered by the scandal, slowly recovers. Under Maya's leadership, it becomes a national model for equitable healthcare and for combating implicit bias in the medical field. She secures funding for a new foundation in her son's name, a foundation dedicated to providing scholarships for promising minority students who want to become doctors. She is not just healing patients anymore. She is healing the system itself. 2 years later, the emergency room is gone. In its place, a gleaming new structure of glass and steel rises, catching the morning light. The sign above the entrance does not read, Emergency Department. It reads, the Leo Washington Center for Pediatric Care. Inside, the air is not filled with the scent of fear and antiseptic. The walls are painted in bright, cheerful colors. Murals of cartoon animals and spaceships adorn the hallways. The sound is not of suffering, but of children's laughter mixed with the quiet, confident hum of cutting-edge medical technology. Dr. Maya Washington walks these halls. She wears a crisp white coat over a simple, elegant dress. Her hair is styled, her face relaxed and confident. She is no longer the frantic mother, but the revered leader. She is followed by a small group of young, eager medical residents. They are a diverse group, a reflection of the world they serve. They hang on her every word. Medicine is not about charts and test results, she tells them, her voice warm but firm. It is about listening. The patient will always tell you the diagnosis. You just have to be willing to hear them. She stops outside a room where a young mother is anxiously rocking a crying baby. The mother looks up, her eyes wide with fear. The same fear Maya once felt. Maya gives her residents a meaningful look, then steps into the room. She doesn't address the baby first. She addresses the mother. Hello, she says softly, her smile genuine and empathetic. I'm Dr. Washington. Tell me what you're worried about. She listens. Really listens. As she talks to the mother, a confident, smiling woman in a practitioner's coat walks by the door and gives Maya a respectful nod. It is nurse practitioner Evans. She is leading her own team now. The cycle is not just broken, it is reversed. The moral of the story is etched into the very walls of this new building. Arrogance, born of prejudice, is a cancer. It rots the soul and clouds the mind. Alastair Finch wore his white coat like a crown, believing it granted him the power to decide who was worthy of his care, who was worthy of life. He saw a woman and a child and passed a sentence based on nothing more than the color of their skin and the simplicity of their clothes. He never imagined that beneath the faded hoodie was a mind sharper than any scalpel he had ever held. He never knew that the desperate mother pleading for her son's life held the power to shatter his entire world with a single phone call. True power is not found in a title or a uniform. It is not in the ability to command or to intimidate. It is found in the quiet courage to protect the vulnerable, the fierce resolve to fight for what is right, and the strength to tear down a corrupt kingdom, not for revenge, but to build something better and more just in its place. Finch thought he was the judge, sitting on his throne in his sterile courtroom of an ER. In reality, from the moment Maya Washington walked through those doors, he was the one on trial. And he never even knew it until the gavel fell, and his whole world was condemned.